My name's Greg. I am part of the EBA, Elevated Boot Fitting Academy, and today we're going to be discussing some shell adjustment. With that, you're going to find some different types of adjustments in the shell. You can find your forward lean adjustment, you can find your flex adjustment, and you can also find your boot cuff adjustment. This boot here has a forward lean adjustment. Forward lean adjustment is usually found on the back of the boot. Every boot's going to kind of brand will differ on where the forward lean adjustment will be. With this one here, this is a full tilt. What happens is you take the upper cuff, you flex it forward, and they have little wedges in the back here. Usually you can get a thicker one or a thinner one depending on what you need. And what defines the forward lean adjustment will be if the customer is out skiing and they feel like they're sitting in the back seat too much, or if you're watching them flex a boot and they're not engaging it properly, you'll need to give them a little bit thicker wedge in there to get them forward a little bit more, get them so they're centered in the boot but driving that boot forward. And if they're flexing too much, you want to pull. If they're going over too much, you want to bring it back so they can get back in the back seat a little bit to bring them back into that neutral position. And again, that is with the wedges here. Every boot's different. You want to be able to flex it, pull them out, and adjust, and you can define which one's going to work better for the customer out there. The next thing we're going to look at is flex adjustment. So when a customer puts their foot in the boot and they're in there and they're flexing the boot, and you can tell if they're driving the boot too far forward, they need to stiffen the boot up. And a lot of the boots have a flex adjustment on it. So like this is a 90 flex boot, and you can turn up or turn down the flex on it. So for an individual that is a strong skier and they get in there and they're flexing and the boot is turned down, we want to turn it up so it stiffens the boot up for them. And if it's the complete opposite, if you have someone that's a little bit lighter, not as strong as a skier, and they're trying to drive the boot forward, you want to turn it down a little bit, soften the boot up for them so they can actually engage it, and it helps them engage the ski. And the last one we're going to talk about is can adjustment. Can adjustment is usually found on the side of the boot. Again, like I've said, all boots kind of differ on different adjustments they have and everything. But with the can adjustment, this is going to get the person, if they're bow-legged or and their knees are in or out, and this is going to help them get it completely lined up. And what we're going to do is we're going to show this with a demonstration with our lovely model here. First, what you want to do is open the boot up, take the liner completely right out. Have the customer's old boot. We're going to take out her custom footbeds, or her orthotics that she has in here. You're going to take your shoe off for me, my dear. Thank you. Actually, we're going to do this barefoot right at the moment, and then I'm going to have you put your socks on. Okay. So what you want to do is you want to take the footbed, get it inside the shell. Make sure it's placed in the proper positioning and into a neutral stance for the customer. Have the customer stand up. Open the shell up nicely for them. Have them slide in. Have the customer engage, flexing forward. Make sure they're equally weighted. And now with the customer here, you can notice that with her stance and everything, she's completely lined up. So with her custom footbed in there, it's got her into a perfectly neutral stance. Now, the next part is to stand up normally for me. You want to look at where she is inside the cuff. Do we need to make adjustments? She is right where Megan is standing right now. We have equal distance all the way around, and that is an ideal fit. Now, if her leg was shutting into the inside or pushing onto the outside, that's where we need to make some adjustments, either onto our custom orthotic that's inside or to the cuff. Then we can make a cuff adjustment. We're going to have the skier pull their foot back out of the shell. Can you have you put your ski sock on for me? We are now going to put the boot back together for her. once you've reassembled the boot, now we want to have the skier stand, open the shell up, allow them to slide in, nice and easy. Do a few buckles up for them. Drive your foot a few times back and forth. You want to also make sure the skier's foot gets seated back into the heel pocket of the boot. How does that feel on you? Okay. Then proceed to lock down the lower cuff of the boot. Now once you have the customer it locked into the boot in the proper positioning and everything, we're going to do a cant adjustment. The cant adjustment is found on the side of the boot, and it's going to align the knee to be centered going across the front of the toe box. What you'll see with a skier, normally they're going to supinate or pronate. 90% of the time, more or less, you're going to find someone that has a pronation problem. Their knees slightly kind of move inwards. Supination is very, you do see it, but it's not as common. With Megan's leg, her knees she has a pronation problem. So what we're going to do is adjust the cuff alignment to bring her over the center of the toe box to get her in a better neutral stance. And a better way to do this is to just have the skier turn around for you. I've already had her flex forward into the boots so I can see her knee. They come inwards. What we want to do is do a couple little adjustments on the side here, and by adjusting the cuff of the boot you can change the angling on it, if it's either going in or out on both sides. And then have the skier, Megan, if you could spin around back for me please. Once you've made those adjustments, then you want to have the skier flex forward again, and now she is nice and straight across the front of the boot. Now once you have the customer inside their boot, depending on if the customer has a longer calf or a larger calf, made for if we need to trim the cuff of the boot. Trimming the cuff of the boot will you can either open it up a little bit more for a larger calf, or you can soften up the shell if the boot does not have a flex adjustment in it. And by doing so, if you open it all the way up, you'll notice there's a bit of a V inside the boot. And all you have to do is you can get right inside there with a grinder or a pair of snips, and then cut out a bigger section of that, and that'll open up the cuff of the boot a little bit more. And also, if need be, you can soften it up for the customer as well by taking some of the section of the cuff out as well for them. Next thing we want to talk about is a spoiler. Spoiler is found inside the boot. It's usually found in the back of the cuff of the boot. Not all the boots are going to have them. And in this case, this boot does not have it, but we can either take the spoiler out if the customer has an oversized calf, or if the customer has a thinner calf, then we want to leave it in there to take up some volume in the boot. Pretty much the spoiler is what I just said. It takes up volume, or increase or decrease the volume of the boot. You want to remove the spoiler or leave it in, depending on the size of the customer's calf. Turn the sign for me. Yep. Some boots will not have a spoiler in the back of them, which is normally found in the back here by the calf muscle. Sometimes they will have a bit of a flap on the side here, or key adjustments that you can find that will open it up to individuals that have very athletic calves. That will really open up the cuff to make it easier to get in a larger calf in there. Now once you have the customer all locked in here and everything, we want to check out where we are with the buckle placement. Buckle placement is very crucial when you have someone that either has a very large calf, insert of a leg, or a very narrow. So as you can see, the customer I have here, she has a long and narrow leg. So what we have is the buckles are, when we've got her in the ideal fit position, the buckles are already as far as they can go. So what we want to do is have the customer resit back down for us, unbuckle the top part. So pretty much you want to open the boot up, very quick, easy. Some are going to be an Allen head, this one happens to be a Phillips head. What we're going to do is just move the ladders of the upper cuff by unscrewing it. Now with Megan, because she has a slimmer calf, we want to move the buckle inwards, the ladder inwards. So this is going to give a better placement and a few extra notches for her to adjust the boot as the boot breaks it. Alright, now you've adjusted the ladders on the boot. Also on the other side of the boot where the actual buckle is, we have a micro adjustment. The majority of 99% of all the boots out there today have a micro adjustment on there. Spinning it in, it's going to tighten it up. Spinning it outwards will loosen it or extend the ladder on, or the buckle on there. Get her in the ideal positioning. Now she has more spots on the ladder to adjust as the boot breaks it. Reattach power strap, have the customer rise, stand, flex the boot back and forth a few more times. Boot feels good?
Yes.
Thank you.